Hello Acceleration Nation, it is Laramoto here, and today I am riding a battery powered bike. Specifically it is the Artisan ES1-Pro, which is a dual cell Coulter engined 5 kilowatt Supermoto. I have had it for a month. I've used it for commuting, shopping, popping around and seeing my mates, racing it around a flat track circuit, and of course running it for as far as possible till the battery dies. If you want to know more about owning one of these motorbikes, an electric powered vehicle, then watch this video. I have ridden an electric bike before. That's the Artisan Evo, kindly lent to me by Fowler's down in Bristol. That had 3 kilowatts of power. This one has 5 kilowatts. This is the dual cell, so it has 2 Samsung lithium 72 volt batteries that work in parallel, which is about 15 brake horsepower, 40 newton meters of torque that will take you from 0 to just over 50 miles an hour with a really steady progressive pull, and gets quite exciting, like 10 to 30 to 40. You feel quite nippy and a bit stealthy in an urban environment, in city streets, but you can feel a little bit vulnerable on A roads, anything above 50 miles an hour, where you need a little bit more grunt to feel a little bit safer. But nippy, getting around cars, schnorgeling in through traffic, absolutely spot on. In terms of who can ride it, well, you just need a CBT. So you can ride this with L plates, and the minute you get your A1 license, you can take those L plates off. Whenever I mention battery powered bikes, the first thing everybody asks is, how far will I get? So this will do 60 miles on one charge. However, in reality, it will do about 30. Let me explain. So this ES1-Pro has 3 modes. It is firstly sport, so all the power of those dual cells in parallel, giving you all the fun, sport mode. And then it has dynamic, which I'll explain shortly, and then it has eco mode, which is more of a if your range anxiety has become very real and you need to kind of trickle your way home running on fumes. Not sure what a battery powered equivalent phrase is for that, but eco will basically get you home. It caps it out at 30 miles an hour, and D for dynamic, not drive, is in fact just a blend of the two. Now I like riding it in sport because I just want to hoon around, and typically within a 30-mile range of my house it's absolutely perfect. I am going to do a range test in this video, so we'll find out how far I really get. So how do I charge it? Well, you basically plug it into the mains at your house. So I have just been hooning it, so I went out on 100% and now I'm on 34%. But didn't have to go to a fuel station. Now I'm just going to plug it in. It's going to cost me about 50p to charge. Now that is bargain fun. So what we're going to do now, open up the lid, grab the charging plug, lid off, and chuck it in, job done, and then just flick it on at the mains. And that's it. It charges both batteries from empty to full in about 3.5 hours. Depending on how you ride, that's 1 or 2 pence a mile, which is still going to be perhaps a little bit cheaper than your fuel commute. Unlike the Artisan Evo, the inverter for this is actually kept at home. Most journeys in the UK are within 9 miles and have an average of about 15 minutes. And this is exactly what this bike is all about. Shopping, commuting, popping out to see your mates, having a bit of a local laugh. I find that when I'm in these conversations about electric vehicles, it's more about the willingness of the individual to slightly change their lifestyle to see if they can make battery power work for them. The statement horses for courses really does apply here, because it's quite easy to write off how a bike like this might not apply to you, but actually it just takes a little bit of a shake-up of traditional methods of travel. Also, going electric means you can snuggle your way into a rather lovely golf course. I'm here at Horsley Lodge. Aside from not annoying them mid-swing, it also means you can make funny jokes about drawing parallels with your battery bike, and that off a golf cart or a battery-powered golf cart. I've had plenty of feedback and rebukes on Twitter akin to, sounds like a pencil sharpener, why are you riding your toaster? But I don't mind it. It's all part of the banter, and it's all part of challenging the status quo. And here's what it sounds like when you're riding one. Right, let's cut back to the garage where I'm heading off to work without waking up my neighbours. So I'm trying to show you how much quicker I can leave the house on my battery powered bike than I can with my beautiful Ducati. So I'm ready to go, ready to ride, I just need to hop on and go. So that's what I'm about to do. So the countdown starts now. Transformer off, lid on, closed, ignition on, let it wake up, and we're ready to go. Yep, it really is that simple. There was something quite pleasurable about its convenience. So now we're going to cut back and talk about the switchgear. Bike, I mean, headlights work, hazards work, and then moving to from sports to dynamic to eco is all fine. Also, don't whack it into eco whilst you're riding on a fast road. It'll just limit you straight to 30 and it feels like someone's put the brakes on. Brake fluid is nice and visible. Mirrors don't seem to vibrate, I wonder why. But then the indicators are probably my biggest problem, but it's really hard to feel where they are and whether they're on and off again. There's no like reset button, so it's just something to be aware of. Obviously my brakes, so I've got a front right brake and then no rear foot brake. It's just the left lever is the rear brake. You also have to remember that the throttle is always on. On this bike, there's not really any kind of neutral or park mode. The minute it's on at the ignition, it's on at the throttle. So something to note. The LCD's pretty simple. You get a really obvious indication of your speed and the percentage battery power remaining. You also get an illuminated ready to tell you that it's ready to go. There's also a current that shows a bar that expands and contracts depending on how much throttle you're applying. And there's also a little regen indicator that when you apply the brakes, it indicates that there's power going back into the battery or recovered power. Looks wise, I love it. There are a few bikes on the Artisan Scooters website. There's the Horwin, looks like a cafe racer. There's a handful of scooters, and then there's the Artisan Evo. It's almost Grom-esque. But I like this one the most. I've been hankering after a bike of this shape and style for a while. The front end is modern, layered, and really nice and aesthetic. It gives it kind of beefy front end. The upside down forks certainly help with that, and these covers over the front make it look a bit chunky. On the front there's suspension, and on the rear is pretty basic. There is some rebound adjustment in the front, and at the back you've got a few mil of preload that you can play with, but not that much. In terms of feel on the road, it's a little bit of bouncy, a little bit of front end chatter, and it's pretty basic suspension wise, but it does the job. And I have slid the back in oil, on some slightly wet weather conditions and stayed upright, so I didn't get bounced off, which was great. So yeah, it handles all right actually. The kind of the single piece bars certainly help with a little bit of steering. The sitting on the tank. It's not a tank. Sitting on the top of the frame where the battery compartment is, it's pretty slim, gives you loads of room for manoeuvre and flexibility if you want to flick it around, and I certainly noticed the benefits of that when I was flat tracking. So it's slim and tidy, foot pegs are in the right place, and if you try really hard you can drag them on the ground as well. The tail's really tidy. It's got some convenient grips for pillions or for attaching some extra luggage if you need it, and it'll take up to 200 kilograms on the back. And I took my mate Skelly on the back, and we had quite a good laugh actually, just hooting around the back of his estate. So yeah, it took a passenger okay, just a little bit solid. You're never really going to get much padding in these seats. The brakes, well, they're huge. Although it's just a single disc on the left-hand side, it's got massive 3-pot calipers at the front and then a single pot at the rear. But what's quite interesting, it doesn't have ABS, which is a bit of a shame. But what they do offer is when you pull the rear brake, it's actually connected to one of the pistons in the front brake, which is, I guess, quite novel, quite basic, and at least it gives you some two-wheel distribution. The Supermoto tyres, yeah, totally chuffed with them. what does let it down a touch is some welding that doesn't look that great around the foot pegs and the frame. It could look a little bit neater. And your maintenance, well, that's a different story. So apart from, you know, checking your brake fluid and your chain tension and your chains lubed, there isn't that much to maintain. What you do have to do though is actually swap the gearbox oil. So there's about 350 ml of gearbox oil that needs changing every 6 months. But that's, yeah. Right, that's enough of that waffle. Let's go and do what I promised, the total range test right to the death. I'm going to go out, ride this as I normally would on the road, and I'm hoping to get to about 30 miles or more. That's what the Artisan team reckon. What do you think? How far? Go on then, hedge your bets and comment below. So by the book, 60, I reckon about 30. I am going to ride it totally normally. I'm going to avoid any major A roads, but I'm going to work my way cross country to the Champions Flat Track School in Market Raisin, Lincolnshire. And my trusty artisan friend Adam is following me in his van, so we can really be collected truly when the battery dies. So I travelled 43 miles on this with an average speed of about 27 miles an hour through connected cities, no major A roads, but just rode it to the speed limit and kept it there and got 43 miles. I had a riding time of just shy of 1 hour 40 minutes. So if you factor that into like the time for your commute, then how many commutes can you get in that 1 hour 40? Would that suit you? I'm actually pretty pleased with that, and it's not bad for a dual cell Samsung lithium battery pack that cost me a couple of pence per mile, which is fantastic. So we took it round to the flat track school and then hooned it round the circuit, and it's actually got great equivalence with a 125cc bike, which is exactly what it was designed for. And it's had a load of nods and recommendations for people that, you know, weren't too sure about what these bikes can do, and actually gone, actually that's really good. This is quiet and whizzy and still just as nimble and manoeuvrable as a bike of its genre of a petrol equivalent. So it's been absolutely fantastic to ride with, and I just want to convey that just give it a go, just find out. Electric won't suit everyone, but some of you it will, and I hope that this video helps explain that a little bit better. And that concludes the video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time. If you have any comments about electric bikes, please just leave a comment below. I really appreciate it. And if you like this video, give it a like or a share. And if you want to see more from what I create, please join my Acceleration Nation. I really appreciate it. Thank you again for so much for watching. Take care.